Hello, beautiful people. My corset dress is finally here. It took a while for me to upload this. I'm so sorry about that. My name is Joy, and you are welcome to my channel. If you are just joining this channel for the first time, you are highly welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, you are appreciated. Without wasting much time, let's jump into today's video, and I promise you are going to enjoy it. If you are still yet to subscribe, kindly do. Don't also forget to comment, like and share this video. From my previous video, I had already drafted and cut out all this. Can you see them? That's the lining and the fabric, all for the front and back panels. So just showing you again in case you didn't watch that video. So this is the yoke part of the back panel. I cut out two pieces so that it can be stable. If you have net, I think it's preferable. So this is for the back panel as well, and this for the two sides of the back panel, and this is the yoke for the front panel. Like I said before, I made it double. Now going into the main tutorial. This video is very detailed, meaning if you're a beginner, you will find it very helpful. First of all, I folded this into two. The reason is because I want to get out my darts. You know, when making things like this, you have to be very accurate, okay? So I just placed my pattern paper on it like this so that I will not miss the position of the dart, all right? So I'm going to be transferring the dart like that. As you can see, I will do this for the fabric and the lining. And here it is. Before now, I had made my bony channels. Bony channels are similar to bias. So depending on the size of your bonies, you can create a channel for it. So now I'm just going to be sewing the bony channels on my fabric. You may as well decide to place the bonies on the lining. It's totally up to you. I have just placed my bony channels on my fabric, and I'm just going to be pinning it down. And again, I will measure the distance between the bony channels to ensure that it is well placed, okay? After now, I'm just going to take it to my sewing machine to stitch. Here is how it looks after stitching. So now I'm going to be placing the right side of the fabric on the right side of the lining, and I'm going to align it properly and stitch. So just watch how I stitched. As you can see, I left the corset part and the lower part opened, so meaning I stitched on the sides and the middle alone. Do you see that? So it's good to give it a good press so that it flattens out, okay? After turning to the right side like this, I'm just going to be stitching on that bra part, like closing it up. It's now time to create the corset part. First, I folded my bra cup into two to get the midpoint. I also did that on the fabric, and with the two right sides facing each other, I just held it down with pins that way. When you do it this way, it is easier, and it is even more easier when you do a rough stitch by using your hand needle and thread, preferably using a different color of thread first. Then after doing that, you then take it to your sewing machine to do proper stitching. When you've done that, you loosen the previous stitches. this is me now doing a proper sewing. You can see it is far easier to do it this way. As you can see, I am done stitching using my sewing machine. I'm just loosening the previous thread, the green one. Okay, so I'm done doing that, and here is how it looks, looking very neat. It's now time to attach the yoke to the blouse. But first of all, I need to sew the two pieces of the yoke together, and that's the neck I'm sewing there. You can actually do this in two ways. You can either pipe it or do it this way. Piping means making use of bias to make the neck part. This is just my first time of trying this, and it also came out well. Alright, so I just gave it a good press and it's looking very flat. I'm going to go ahead to stitch the remaining part of the yoke, so that when I'm attaching it to the blouse, it's going to be easier for me. Okay, so now I'm done doing that, and I'm just going to fold this into two to get the midpoint. Can you see that I notched it? I'm also going to do the same for the blouse. So with the two right sides facing each other, I just pinned the two midpoints like that. Then I also pinned the remaining part of the yoke onto the blouse till I got to the end of the yoke. So I did it for the other side. After now, I proceeded to my sewing machine to stitch on it. It's quite easy, okay? So after sewing on this wrong side, I turned it to the right side again, then I top stitched for it to come out flat. Can you see it? Although it doesn't really look too flat there, and that's because I used an organza instead of a net. So I think using a net is better for this kind of design. Let me say I'm done making the front part of the corset, or partially done making the front part of the corset. Sewing the back panel is not too different from the front panel, okay? Just the same method, just that there are now 4 pieces of yoke for the back panel, and that's because there's a zipper at the back. Just the same way I doubled the front, I did the same for the back as well. I forgot to mention this earlier. If you have any curve, it's good you notch so that when you turn to the right side, it will come out flat. It's now looking very flat and neat because I just gave it a good press. It's time for me to close all the openings, just like I did for the front panel. So when I was done, I just placed my pattern paper on it to double check if I'm still on track. As you can see, I'm still on track. Then for the lower part of my back panel, I'll just be creating my dart. But before I do that, I will place all the back panels together, both the lining and the fabric. I'm just going to align them. Then after doing this, I will just place my pattern paper on it. Then I will use my pins to transfer the dart. I don't know how to explain this now. Can you see the points of the dart like a triangle? So I just use my pin to transfer it to the fabric and the lining. Can you see it? So where the pins came out, I'm just marking those points with my chalk. From here, I went ahead to stitch using my sewing machine. I did this for the 4 pieces. Can you see it? So when you are stitching, you do it on the wrong side, okay? and this is it for the fabric, and this is it for the lining. So next is to attach my bony channels. So it's just like I'm going to be covering the darts with the bony channels. Just the way I stitched for the front panel, I did the same for the back panel. Can you see that? So it's time to attach the yoke to the lower part of the back panel. First, you place the two right sides together like this. You do this for the two sides, that is the back one and back two. That was how I labeled it in my previous video. So I've stitched for one part. I'm going to also do this for the second part. Remember, we've not attached the lining yet. So that's it. So it's time to attach the lining. So when you want to do this, the right side will also face the body of the piece. I don't know if I'm actually making sense here, but before you do that, it's good you fold in the organza so you don't mistakenly sew on it. Just use pin to just hold it down so you don't mistakenly sew on it. So now I am attaching my lining, and I also close the zipper area. So it's time to turn it to the right side. And here is how it looks when you turn it to the right side. You may decide to top stitch, but to me, I feel this is okay this way. Well, if you top stitch it, it's not also bad. It's now time to fix in the bonies into the bony channel. So I just placed it like that. I'm going to be cutting off little parts such that there will still be a little space where I can sew on top. Although some bonies are sewable. When I say sewable, you can actually stitch on it, while some can actually break your needle. But it's advisable you just trim it in a way that it will not obstruct your sewing. So here I've placed the boning inside the bony channel, and I've also closed it. You can see it's looking more stable, it's looking firmer. So that's corset for you, okay? Now I'm going to be sewing on the zipper area. To double check, I just still place my pattern paper on it, and that's where the zipper will be. I'm going to be closing that for now. I will open it up later. So I've just done that. The back panel is ready. For the front panel, I'll also place the boning inside the bony channel. I'll reduce it in a way that I can as well close it just the way I did for the back panel. Can you see that? So I have also closed the opening in the front panel. Now, going to the lower part of the dress. My table is not that big, so you may not really be able to see how I folded it. I love doing things very quickly, so instead of me cutting out the front panel first and later cutting out the back panel, I just did the two together. How did I achieve that? I folded it into 4. Then I just made the back part to be a little wider with about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, and that will serve as the zipper allowance. Can you see it? So the back panel is a little wider than the front panel. So I did the folding the same time so that when I cut it out, I will get the pieces for the front and back panel at the same time. But if this will confuse you, it's better you cut out your front panel first. Then when you are done, you then place it again on the fabric to cut out the back panel, taking note of your zipper allowance. So I'm just taking my measurement now. From my waist to my hip is 11 inches and my full length is about 41 inches. I added about in fact, I used the full length of the fabric. This fabric is by 45. It's better you have a long gown than having a short gown. Then I also transferred my horizontal measurement, and that's what I'm doing there. I added extra 2 inches for seam allowance. Can you see it? So I just used my curve ruler to create my hip curve. Then I took it down. It's a straight gown actually. So the same measurement for the round hip is the same measurement I will use for the hemming. Okay. So that's it. Then now I'm creating the dart just the same way I created that for the upper part, and I did it in a way that the two darts will align. So I also came down by 7 or 8 inches. It's totally up to you. It also depends on your height. So this is me creating the dart. I have previous videos where I really showed all this, so because I don't want this video to be too long, I just had to make this to be fast, but I hope you understand. So the same way I transferred the previous dart is just what I'm doing here. I just put my pins in those areas, those points, such that the pins will come out from the other panel. Then I used my chalk to mark those points out. By doing this, I've also transferred the dart on the other piece. Hope you understand. From the way I folded it, I don't have so much wasted fabric. Just see the little excess I have. It's not that much. So I just trimmed the one I could trim. I also trimmed the lower part, as you can see. I also went ahead to mark that because that's where the zipper will be and the slit will be as well. The next is to cut out the lining for the fabric, and I used the same measurement. The only difference is that the lining is just 2 inches shorter than the actual fabric. So when I was done cutting out the pieces, that is the fabric and the lining, so here I was just sewing the darts. That dart we created initially is now I'm just sewing on them. So I did this for all the panels. Can you see? So they came out very neatly. You may be asking, what about the zipper allowance for the back panel? That's exactly what I'm doing now. So this is the back panel. I'm folding it into two. I'm doing this for the fabric and the lining, and I'm just going to open it up like this. Can you see it? But before you do that, it's advisable you pin it down. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my scissors to open it up. I'll do this for the lining and the fabric. When I was done doing that, I had to remove the zip budge. Can you see it? You can see the picture of the cloth. You can see that it is flat at the back. This is how you actually eliminate zip budge. You know, some clothes you see it bulging out at the back. It's not flat. Actually, the back is not flat, so you have to take out an excess or little excess of the fabric. By removing it, your cloth will sit well on your body. You'll be confident. Alright, you know it's the way you are dressed that you'll be addressed. So when you are putting on anything, no matter how simple the style is, let it be given. Attaching the lining to the fabric is no longer news that the two right sides should face each other, and you sew the bottom first like I did, then you proceed to the sides now. Then after sewing on the two sides, you then turn inside out from the waist area. So you do this for all the pieces. If you have watched this video to this point and you have not given it a like yet, kindly do. If you are still contemplating if you should subscribe to the channel, please subscribe. And don't also forget to turn on your notification bell so you don't miss out on my videos. In case you didn't understand how I attached the lining to the fabric for the back panel, this is another opportunity. I'm also trying to attach my lining to the front panel now. So first of all, you sew the lower part, and when you are doing this, definitely one will be shorter than the other. There's no problem. Just sew it like that. Then when you are done, you then align it properly. Thereafter, you sew on the two sides. So I think by now you should have grabbed something. It's quite easy. See me here trying to align the two, because definitely one will be shorter because of the 2 inches difference. When you attach your lining this way, your sewing comes out very professional, People may not even see the lining because it is the fabric that will be appearing under, and that's the reason for making the lining to be a little shorter. I use 2 inches difference. It could be 1 inch shorter, it could be 4 inches shorter. It totally depends on individual's preference. Different methods, the same result. I am now done sewing the bottom and the 2 sides, and you can see I only have 1 place left opened. And that's it there. But before I go ahead, I will just give it a good press. See, it start looking very flat, looking very neat. Even me, I'm admiring my work, looking neat. Can you see it? So now I'm just going to place the 2 pieces of the back panel together. The reason for this is to create my zipper allowance. In order to be more accurate, I just placed my front panel on it like this. So the excess is actually the zipper allowance or the zipper area. I have just marked it and I'm going to sew on it. I've sewn on it, and here is how it looks at the back. Coming to the front panel now, I'm going to be attaching the front part of the corset to the front part of the lower part. I don't know if that makes sense. So before you do that, you need to get the midpoint so that you align the 2 together with your pins. Then you can now sew on it. The same goes for the back panel. Just see how beautiful the front is already, even though I'm not done. And this is how the back looks. I need to mark out where the slit will be, otherwise you'll have a dress and you won't be able to open your legs. So I just marked 14 inches there. I will come back to that later. Because I have finished sewing the back panel and the front panel separately, I'm just going to be placing the 2 together. Again, the 2 right sides are facing each other, and this is where I will really use a lot of pins. When you pin your 2 panels this way, it makes life very easy. Actually, it makes life very easy. So it's time to remark my measurement. I just transferred it again, and after doing that, where I marked is where I'm going to sew on. I marked for my bust area. I also did the same for my under bust. Then I marked 11 inches down, and that was my hip area. I took the measurement for that place too, like that, till I got to the hemming. I connected with my free hand. Like I said before, you can use your pattern ruler. After achieving this, I just started joining all the joinables. The shoulder parts, I joined the 2 sides. Then for the 2 sides of the dress, I sew it down following that line. It's time to work on the slit. Initially I marked 14, so I just tacked that point. The next thing I went ahead to do was just to fold it like that using my pins. I don't want my stitching to show. If not, I will have used my sewing machine to stitch on it, but I'm going to be using my needle and thread to tack it. Okay, I'm going to be doing this off the camera because it's not really a big deal. So I just first of all use my pin to hold it that way. I will show you the end result when I'm done. All right, it's also time to fix the zipper. Some zips are like 24 inches long, some are 20 inches long, so I'm using a zip of about 24 inches long. I will just be marking down, say 22 or 23 inches, okay, which I have just done. I'll be using my machine to tack that place. After doing that, I will just loosen it to that point. Then if you want your zipper to come out neat, it's good to first of all hold it with pins before sewing on it. But if you are a pro, you can just go ahead to sew on it like that. I have fixed the zipper and it came out very well. Man, this dress is lovely. Honestly, it's really beautiful. In another video, I'll be showing you how I created this sleeve, but for now, the sleeve is made, and this is me attaching the sleeve to the body of the dress. Okay, I didn't have any design in mind. I just created that because I didn't want to do a normal sleeve. Normal could be boring, you know that. So I just created something different, and I don't know if I even like it or not, but the bottom line is it's different from normal. So before also doing this, I pinned it to the body of the dress, after which I took it to my sewing machine to sew. I'll be putting on my dress now and you'll see how this beauty looks on my body. First time making a corset dress. So lovely. I believe you love what you are seeing. This is all shades of beauty. Even the fabric is giving. Wow. If you found this video very helpful, kindly give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Do like, comment, and share this video. See you in my next one, and bye.